Hi, everybody. Tom Van Hoy with Pitt State track and field head coach Russ Jewett on this edition of the PSU Track and Field Insider Show. Guerrilla athletes in Emporia last weekend, relays there. Pitt State men won, 157 points. Central Missouri a distant second, 85.3, 19 teams in all there. Pitt State women finished sixth. There were 20 teams participating. Back of MIAA's Missouri Southern, Northwest Missouri, and Emporia State. Pitt State had 33 points. Missouri Southern won, edging Northwest Missouri with 60 points to 59. The Pitt State men with 4 individual winners. Jeff Piepenbrink won the pole vault. Garrett Apier the shot put, Bofaro discus, and Markel Nickens 400-meter hurdles. Along the way, a number of provisional qualifying marks for this year's National Outdoor Meet. Women, one Pitt State win. Emmeline Dearman, the 400-meter hurdles, also a provisional qualifying time, plus an impressive debut by a Pitt State basketball player from this past season. And this weekend, Pitt State home hosting the 28th annual Jocks Niche PSU Guerrilla Relays on Friday, featuring high school track athletes. And then on Sunday, it's the 6th annual Dave Suenram Guerrilla Classic with the college performers taking center stage then. Here's Pitt State track coach Russ Jewett on the men's performance at Emporia State last weekend.
I was pretty pleased with our men's team. There were still some things, some snafus, if you will, that we need to clean up. But they did score the meet. What people need to understand probably is that we don't build a record in our sport. And while it's nice to keep score so you see which team won, we don't always enter our athletes as if to win a meet. Everything builds toward a conference championship. So we're proud that we won the meet, but with a little, guarded pride, I guess.
Have a little asterisk there by it, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, before we talk about some of the individual performances, do you film a lot of stuff of your track athletes? Do you look at that from technique or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we try to do as much of that as possible. When we're on the road, we do more of that. When we host, of course, the coaches are helping to run the meet off and making sure things run smoothly. We can't really do much of that, but we try to get as much as we can. Because it is a teaching tool.
Can you ever do like, I don't know, you think sometimes football where they're looking at pictures on the sideline or something. Do you do that after? Let's just take a long jump or something like that. Do you do any of that?
Yes, the rules prohibit certain kinds of video and viewing, but we can, outside the competition area, we can video and we can use that ourselves. Can't show it to the student athlete during the competition. That's an unfair advantage.
That's pretty interesting. How has that changed since you were participating?
Since I was participating?
Yeah, they had Kodak right back in those days, Instamatic or something, didn't they?
Yeah, when I was participating, you would maybe take a Polaroid and wait for it to develop there and then maybe look at it.
You were waving it above your head, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get it to dry.
That's
hey,
right.
As you look on that and how your men performed, I guess you had 4 individual winners. We know how good Jeff Piepenbrink has been. What did you think of his effort as he wins the pole vault at a little over 16 feet?
Well, actually, I think he's probably a little disappointed at the height. I was glad that he was a good competitor and did what it took to win that competition. A couple of years ago, that would have been a great bar for him, 16 feet, but he's obviously a 17-foot vaulter now, and he struggled a little bit, but when you can struggle and still win against some pretty good vaulters, then that's pretty good stuff.
How technique-oriented is it to be a successful pole vaulter?
Well, it's huge. It's probably the most technical event in track and field, probably along with the javelin. But so much happens in terms of physics in your body, and there's so many variables involved with the wind, the pole selection. There are different lengths of poles. Any given length of pole, like if you're using a 16-foot pole, some are stiffer than others. They're all rated, and how high you hold on the pole. A lot of variables, and it's like the high jump. It's an all-or-nothing event. You either make it or you miss it. You don't get to measure just how high you go. They put the bar up there, and you got to make it. So it's a very technique-oriented event.
I mean, what kind of pressure does that put on someone's body? Because you got to be a pretty good sprinter anyway to have good speed to get down and then jam that pole in there and then flip your body up 16, 17 feet, more than that, really.
Yeah, it's the attributes of a great pole vaulter are speed, agility, athleticism, and a little bit of crazy, maybe.
It takes some courage to do that, too, doesn't it?
I would think so, yeah. That pit looks pretty big. That landing pad looks pretty big when you're standing next to it, but when you fling yourself upside down, maybe 17 feet up in the air, and look at it coming down, it doesn't look quite as big.
What do you anticipate that he'll do for you this year?
Well, he is primarily a pole vaulter, but he's really a pretty darn good multi-eventer, a decathlete in the outdoor season. So we're certainly emphasizing the pole vault because he can do good things at the national level like he has last year outdoor and this past year indoor. And we hope he gets back up to the 17-foot range. We think he will. We're fighting a little bit of a sore Achilles right now, but and then in the decathlon, we're hoping that he'll score some solid points for us at the conference level, maybe qualify to nationals and give us an opportunity to decide whether or not to enter him at the national championship. But we're just going to do probably just the conference decathlon with him.
Does it help, and maybe not just in the pole vault, but other events as well, to have someone who has that kind of success that is competing at the highest level in Division II? Does that help those other vaulters, let's say, that are on your team, or other sport-specific or event-specific people trying to emulate what they do to a certain extent? Oh,
no question about it. And it helps because the youngsters the kids who are aspiring to be that, they've got a guy right there next to him every day. They see he's human. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, as they say, works hard. So they kind of follow in his footsteps and, try to catch a little draft off of him, if you will. So you're around him all the time. And then the other thing is that there are nuances to those athletes' competitiveness and their preparation and their mental preparation that can kind of be passed on to their teammates that some who don't reach that level don't have.
Do they talk amongst themselves? I mean, if somebody vaults, let's say, and they may see something that, hey, you're doing this, or do they have that kind of relationship?
Yeah, among teammates, certainly. I kind of joke sometimes. I used to coach the pole vault before I hired Coach Rutledge, but that these pole vaulters all like to coach each other to some extent. There's so much technique involved, and that they do tend to sort of critique each other because that's just something they normally do. And of course, you only have one coach. That's the way it works. But they do sort of give each other pointers, and it's good to have, especially seniors or juniors within that group that can help when a coach isn't maybe watching, especially if it's a safety issue or something like that.
Hey, how much does a pole weigh?
Boy, a pole doesn't weigh as much as it probably looks. A long fiberglass pole might weigh 2 or 3 pounds, maybe 4 tops, probably 2 or 3. But it's when you're holding, if you've got a 16-foot pole and you're holding what ends up being the top of it, and 13 or 14 feet of it's out in front of you, so it's a little more awkward than it might look too.
Well, it looks like your field event personnel did well for you in the meetup at Emporia and had some more provisional qualifying distances, but that's almost a given, it seems, early on in the year, and even in the indoor season, the field event guys did a good job.
Yeah, we're traditionally pretty strong in the field events, and this year I think is no exception. Good. It's a great place to throw, Tom. There's always good throwers there, and they sort of inspire one another to good performances. They have really good discus facilities, 2 different directions to throw, and the wind is a factor in the discus. And so that combination of good competition and good situation, I think our guys and our girls really took advantage of that.
How about the numbers in the shot put? Garrett Apier, 56.3 discus, Bo Farrell, 168, 2.5, and then even Cody Holland in the discus with a PQ, and Farrell in the shot put as well at 53, 8.5. Are those pretty good numbers right now?
They are. Yeah, they are. Bo's 168.2 sort of puts him inside the bubble right now, I think. Now the distances will get tougher as we go, but those are all good, solid marks without question, yeah.
How about Markel Nickens in the 400-meter hurdles? 53.61, good?
Yeah, that won't get him into nationals. He'll probably have to run in the 52s to make it in, or maybe even high 51s as it goes, but that's a pretty strong event at Pittsburg State, and I did some research on that, and that's a number 10 all-time at Pitt State. So for his first year with us as a transfer student, I think he's made the transition really well and competed really well in that race.
We talked about relays last week and 41.12 this past weekend. You win it. A little better the handoff this week, or how'd it go?
Yeah, it was. Our last handoff still not great, but the first 2 were really good, really good. So, and we had different personnel. Andre Sanders had a little bit of a sore hamstring after our home meet, and he led off that relay. And so Anderson Elliott took over the job from him. and that's always a little dicey. But our second leg, Jason Crow did a great job of concentrating with a new teammate handing to him. And this is Jason's first year to run a second leg, and he's a junior. He's never run a second leg before. So all in all, he did a great job, too.
How about Jordan Morton in the javelin at about 210?
That was, I don't want to say a shock, but a very pleasant surprise. Now, he's impressed Coach Mantooth early on. Occasionally in practice, he's a little guy for a javelin thrower. He looks more like a sprinter, and so was deceptively a good athlete in the javelin. But that was a pleasant surprise there. That 210 feet. That's a strong provisional qualifier to likely get him into nationals.
Anything else surprise you on the men's side, or you mentioned there are some things you do need to work on, but.
Well, yeah, we still need to. We dropped the baton in the 4x400. At the start, which I've never seen before. It was a bizarre thing. Oh, yeah. Markel was leading off the 4x4, and as he pulled his leg through and whipped his arm back that was holding the baton, he accidentally kicked with his knee the baton, and it loosened it, and then another arm swing, and it kind of went flying. So just a bizarre thing. But we picked it up and competed. But just strange things like that, we certainly want to get those out of our system before anything important comes along.
What about the quality of competition? 19 teams, and you won it by a wide margin over Central.
Well, there were some NAI and JUCO teams there, and again, even the Central Missouri Southern, they didn't enter full force. It's all about building toward a conference championship, and if you've got people you need to, rest for a weekend from competition, or some of them may have gone to a different competition to find better competitors in their event. That happens sometimes too. You'll see that next week particularly. So again, it's. We're not going to hurt ourselves, patting ourselves on the back. The mission is still ahead of us and not behind us, that's for sure.
Overall, how'd the women do?
Did pretty well, did pretty well. We didn't, without Ramey Grayson, we're not, super strong in the sprints, but we did. I was really proud, Net Reed, who everybody probably knows is a women's basketball player for Coach Lord and did a great job with them. She's an outstanding track athlete as well, and so it was great to have her join us this week, and she actually jumped 19 feet 6 in the long jump from a not real long approach. That's equal number 3 all time for us. So
wow,
we're fortunate to have her join us and appreciate Coach Lord sharing another student athlete with our program.
What about the 200 at 25:54? Is that pretty good coming out?
Pretty good, yeah. And she's run faster than that before, but she hasn't done track and field for. It was 3 years ago was her last season to do track and field. So her fitness, even though she's very fit for basketball, a little different than for track. So hopefully she'll get faster there, and she can help us in a lot of ways. We just have to be careful not to get too greedy with her and want to keep her healthy.
I know last week we talked about Emmeline Dearman, and it sounds like she had a pretty good hurdles race for you.
She really did. Her first one ever. She'd run the 300 hurdles in high school,
wow.
But the 62:44, that's pretty darn good. That may not get her to nationals, but it's getting close to being in the conversation. That's for sure. And
how different is the women's 400 meters from the men?
It's really the only technical difference is the hurdles are 6 inches lower. 3 inches. Yeah, 6 inches lower. They're 30 inches, and the men are 36. So they're not as tall.
All right. How about you've talked on occasion on this show about Heather Glenn and her ability as a pole vaulter. She got a provisional qualifying mark of 11.75, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, not quite as far as her season opener, though. But still, she's a great competitor, and she has some back soreness occasionally. So we're trying to balance the need to compete consistently with being ready for the conference championship with her. But she did fine. She's a good competitor.
How about DeAndrea Blow and the discus for you?
Outstanding. Again, it's a good place to throw because you have those good throwers and good facilities there. And that 146.7, again, may not be far enough to get her in ultimately, but it's a good confidence builder and certainly an outstanding mark.
Well, it's early on in the outdoor season, and you have a chance to come back home, and you got the Guerrilla Relays coming up on Friday. A lot of high school athletes will be in town, will be on campus, and I know that's always a big one, 28th annual, I believe, and then the 6th annual Day Suenram Guerrilla Classic the following day with the collegiate athletes. So you have a lot of work to do, obviously, this weekend, but it's also a big weekend for you and track and field and the Pittsburgh community and Pitt State as well. It
is. That Friday meet, the Guerrilla Relays, we love to give an opportunity for prospective student athletes to come on the campus, obviously, and we do get to see them perform. There are a lot of student athletes that probably aren't collegiate athletes at our level or potential, but there are a few that are. It's really good for our kids to sort of give service to the sport at the high school level, and that's what they do. Our college athletes work that meet, and so give a good venue and a good sort of forum for these kids to show their stuff and have fun and create some good memories here on the campus of Pittsburg State. Then the next day, of course, we have the 6th annual David Suenram Gorilla Classic. That meet is a pretty competitive competition. Good opportunity for some of our kids to chase those qualifying marks again and to perform at home in front of those that want to come watch them.
How about from a time frame on Friday and on Saturday if people want to come out to the stadium and take a look?
Well, Friday, the high school meet starts at 3 with the field and the running. That's kind of unusual, but we want to give everyone an opportunity to come to our meet and get home before midnight or 1 anyway. So it's a pretty big meet sometimes. So 3 o'clock for field and running. It'll probably go till about 9:30, something like that. On the Saturday, we start the field events at noon, and then the running events are at 2 o'clock.
Do you get, or are you going to have a number of teams coming from different areas, both collegiately and also from the high school level?
Yeah, the high schools, we get teams from the Kansas City area. There's Wichita, Southeast is coming. Northeast Oklahoma, usually there's someone that comes, and of course, Southwest Missouri. So mostly smaller schools at the Gorilla Relays this year, but there are a few Kansas 6A type, Missouri 4A schools. So it's a good blend.
How about on the Dave Suenram Gorilla Relays? You going to have a competitive group of teams come in?
Well, our entries aren't due yet, and the way we don't do contracts or anything, we just open it up and invite whoever wants to come. But typically, some of the better teams in the conference do come. Missouri Southern has come about every year, and we anticipate they will again. And Central Missouri, Southwest Baptist, some of the better teams in the conference. So, and then also some other Division II schools outside our conference will be here, and there's always some really strong competition from the NAIA schools and the junior colleges.
Hey, when you see in the results running unattached, can it? I don't. Maybe the question is, can anybody show up, or how does that work? I guess.
Yeah, it's technically an open competition. There are some restrictions in terms of entry standards, especially in the throws, but the unattached status can mean a couple of different things. It could be a student athlete who has graduated, used their eligibility, but still wants to compete, maybe to, try to earn a spot on a national team or something. But usually what it means is that a youngster is redshirting, just preserving their eligibility in the sport, and you can still compete as long as you are unattached, not provided any support whatsoever from your university. And so you compete unattached in your affiliation to preserve your eligibility. So you may be developing, or maybe you got hurt and didn't want to use the season and still are healthy enough to compete a little bit.
That's Pitt State track and field head coach Russ Jewett on this edition of the PSU Track and Field Insider Show. Again, a big weekend on the Pitt State campus coming up. High school athletes in Friday, 28th annual Jocks Niche PSU Gorilla Relays. And then Saturday, college athletes turn in the 6th annual Dave Suenram Gorilla Classic there as well. I'm Tom Van Hoy.